Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation with the Arts Industry Professionals. Today I have got the most amazing person with me who is at the top of his game within the showbiz circuit. He is an actor, singer, dancer, resident choreographer, associate choreographer, everything. This guy is awesome. So let's hear it for the fantastic Mr. Darren Carnall. Huzzah. How are you this fine lockdown evening?
I'm very, very well. I've been doing a muggle job during the lockdown, and I finished a little early today, so it was quite nice. I got to come home and do like second walk with the dog and everything. So it's
nice. We'll be taking a little look into your extensive career today, which we are so very, very excited about. But first, let's take a little look at where it all started. Where did it all start for you? And what were your main influences growing up and discovering performance?
Well, it all started in the primary school playground when my mate said that he was going to tap classes. I was like, what's that? And I went along, and about 2 weeks later, he stopped and I carried on. And that was it. And I was absolutely obsessed with tap dancing and just did it all the time. I had a piece of wood in the garage that I'd go out in the freezing cold and just tap dance on a piece of wood in the garage and practice and practice and practice. And that was it. I was like completely smitten with the dance bug, and would watch musicals, watch all the MGM musicals. You know, so many people, that's their start in theatre. They see these old movies and there's just something about them that they immediately fall in love with. And I was no different. I literally would watch all the MGM movies, the film of a chorus line. There's a line in the movie that says, you watched The Red Shoes? I watched that movie 112 times. And I was adamant that I was going to watch a chorus line 112 times. So that I could say, chorus line, I watched that movie 112 times. I think I got to about 54 and then I lost count. So who knows? I've certainly watched it many, many times. I would learn the choreography, like the finale one. I'd get a hat and I would learn it. And I suppose in a weird way, that's how, like, now, looking back now, working like as a swing and as an associate choreographer and a choreographer, having to watch like videos and learn stuff, like a mirror it and everything. I kind of was doing that when I was like 9-10 years old, watching a chorus line, because I was watching the movie and learning the choreography and turning it around, like, so that I was doing the same foot as them. And I was doing all that right, even back then. I enjoyed tap so much that my dance teacher said, if you're going to take dance seriously, who knows what you want to be in your future, but if being a dancer is a possibility, you've got to be able to do tap, you've got to be able to do jazz, you've got to be able to do ballet. So I started going to ballet classes, hated it. My old dancing teacher always ribs me that I literally every other week I go, I'm not doing this anymore, I hate it. And then the next week I'd be right there going, come on, let's do it again.
And was this with the infamous June Pugh?
It was indeed.
Excellent.
The incredible June Pugh at the Horsley School of Dance. The school was a shed at the bottom of her garden. That was it. We literally went to her house, walked through her garage, up to the top, to the end of the garden, and there was a shed, and that was where the dance studio was. And then as time went by, she found other premises and moved to a different premises. But to start off with, it was literally in her shed at the end of her garden.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Freezing cold. Like you had to love it to go, because literally, like, on a Saturday morning in January, doing ballet, you know, full ballet gear, tight vest, tights, ballet shoes, no extra clothing. If you're cold, go home.
Get on with it.
No, I'm okay. So funny. But
yeah, I mean, I went to Horsley School of Dance for a short time. I think it was just over a year I went.
Right.
But it really served me in preparation for going off to Arts Ed. I kind of owe both June and Lizzie everything from that point. You know, I'd got lots of dance experience and I lots of singing, but in terms of concentrating it in preparation for going off to drama school, that was amazing.
They have such an incredible ability at Horsley to teach the discipline and the technique that's required for a professional career. There's numerous people that have trained at Horsley that have gone on to work in the business, because they've got this reputation and an incredible ability to train children to a really, really professional standard, and they're still doing it today.
I remember going off to ballet. You know, we were getting there for 8 o'clock in the morning, really not feeling it. I remember June saying to me, like, you want to go off to drama school? Okay, you've done a bit of ballet, you've done a bit of this, but I'm going to throw you in at the deep end. And she really did. I mean, it was just like, right, straight into the advanced class. I was like,
wow.
Oh, wow, here we go. You know, and I was surrounded by all of these girls who were just amazing, you know, and there was me. But it was the best thing that could have happened, because it made me go, right, okay, they're this good, I need to match that.
It's one of the things that I always remember about going off to college as well. The incredible, terrifying, but needed thing when you go to professional college is that you leave your dancing school as like the big I am, and they're like, you're like the best, and you're going off to college and you're like, I'm amazing. And then you rock up to college in London and all of a sudden there's like 50 people in your year who are all the best at their dancing school. And you're like, oh, it's exactly the same thing. It's sink or swim. You either go, okay, that's the best person, I'm going to try and be like them, or you go, oh, I'm not very good, and you just go,
yeah.
Like it's literally survival. It's fight or flight. It really is. Yeah. I remember the first day of college sitting there and going, oh, I'm not. I'm good, but so are all this lot.
Yeah. Oh shit.
better get my bunny tights on.
You went off to Lane Theatre Arts.
I did.
And you actually went off quite early on, didn't you?
Yeah, I went at 16, yeah.
How was that experience for you that young?
Do you know what? It was good. I was literally thinking about this the other day. As a child, I was quite mature. I engaged with people of more of an age than my years, because I was also in a theatre group in Coventry called the Youth Operetta Group, called YOG. Yeah. And that was amazing. I was like 14, 15, and I was literally hanging around with like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds and getting, you know, they were my gang, my group. And it's weird because now as an adult, I'm such a child. Like I've literally got there's like Disney everywhere in my house. It's like I'm like I take my life and my work very seriously, but I also am really I refuse to not have fun whilst working hard. So it's kind of like I've gone from one extreme to the other. So leaving to go to college earlier was not a problem for me. Like I was quite ready for moving away from home, mainly because I was so excited about, you know, chasing the dream that I had, and I was ready to do that. Obviously, I was like scared about not missing my family and whatever. And I remember like the first day that I went down to Lane Theatre Arts. But yeah, I remember my parents dropping me off at the family that I was going to be living with the first year, and I remember just going into the bathroom and shutting the door and sitting and crying because I was like, "What's that? This is horrible!" Oh. And that was like an hour, and then I was like, "I'm okay now. I'm fine. Let's do this. It's great." And of course, like college was like the best experience of my life. It was incredible. I loved it.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I wasn't quite as young as you. I went off at 18.
Right.
And I remember that first day thinking, actually, yeah, cool, this is great. Went in, I'd set up my room with my parents, and then it got to the point they were going, and I was literally like, I'm actually okay. Like I felt all right. And it was the next day. The next day, like reality set in.
Yeah, the reality hits and you go, oh crap.
Yeah, I was like, oh wait, hang on, what? I've got to go and cook a meal on my own. What?
I was just going to say, but one of my favorite things and one of the lasting memories for me was like I went to like Sainsbury's and I was like, I can buy whatever I want. If I want to buy chocolate cereal, I can buy chocolate cereal. It's like, it's so good. So
you generally had a positive experience at Lane Theatre Arts?
Oh my God, like absolute dream. I met friends that I'm you know, are friends for absolute life. I had an amazing time being taught by the most incredible people. Jerry Zuccarello and Barbara Evans and Tessa Smalley, every single teacher without fail. Sarah Wilson, who's still there, who I see when I go and teach there now. They were just incredible, and the whole experience of being at college and living in that little bubble and with all those friends that love the same thing that you love it's just brilliant. Yeah,
it's amazing when it turns out like that for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know that, so, you know, some people do go to college, and it's not, you know, not necessarily lanes, any college of any sort, you know, not even like a theatre college. Some people go to college and it's not what they want, or they have a hard time, or, you know, they find a teacher that they don't, you know, connect with, and they you know, butt heads against each other, and it's not a pleasant experience. But like I say, I personally had like an amazing time.
You graduated and then you went into 2 shows under Anne Reinking. Yeah. So you went into Chicago and then Fosse the musical.
Yeah.
The most amazing woman. What was that experience like?
It was incredible. For Chicago, I went into the second cast in London. So we were taught the show by an amazing guy called Gary Christ, who was a Fosse dancer. He's an American guy. He was one of the most incredible dancers that's danced on stage in America and around the world. He taught us Chicago because he was the associate choreographer of Chicago, which was incredible. When I then moved into Fosse, the musical, that's when Anne came over and, you know, and taught the show. We did also had the associates that came over and taught us like the majority of the choreography. And then towards the end of the rehearsal period, Anne Reinking and Gwen Verdon came along as well, and was in the rehearsal room with us, which was like unbelievable. Like I still cannot quite believe that I got to be in a rehearsal room with Anne Reinking and Gwen Verdon. It's insane. You know, off the back of as well, at one point in Chicago, Chitty Rivera came over and did like a little stint. So I'd literally been on stage with Chitty Rivera, who's like Sweet Charity, Anita, West Side Story, like, oh my God, like, what? And then got the chance to be in a rehearsal room being taught Bob Fosse's choreography by his wife and his muse, you know. It was just unbelievable. It was incredible.
It's such an iconic style, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But it's what I love about it as well, is it all comes from his restrictions. Like he was going bold, so that's why he always wore hats. He was pigeon-toed. He wasn't particularly good at ballet in his youth, hence why he then decided, well, if I can't turn my feet out, I'm going to turn my feet in. You know, and it all came from his own personal restrictions in his physicality. He then used that difference and that kind of lacking to then catapult himself into absolute genius, man of myth and legend. You cannot watch something without recognizing it and calling it, you know, the Fosse style. It's so unique.
So from there, you went on to perform in The Witches of Eastwick, which is a lovely show.
I love that show so much. And all of us that did that show love it so much because it was such an incredible show. And it finished too soon because we were in the show when 9/11 happened. And so as a result of 9/11, so many shows in the West End had to close. The tourism industry absolutely disappeared. And so many shows in the West End had to close. And Witches was one of those. So we didn't actually complete our entire year contract on it. So it really felt like it was taken away from us too soon, because we just were having so much fun on it, and it's such a brilliant show. I think it's one of the best shows that Cameron's ever put on. I think it's just brilliant, and I believe that he's holding on to the rights for that as well. So I think there will probably be a new production of that at some point. I certainly hope so, because I will be there with bells on.
Well, I hope so. I've never actually seen it performed. We did a very small project of it at drama school. I think it was in our first year, actually.
Oh, cool.
And my friend and I, Christina Modestu, we played a little old couple in Eastwick Knows, and it was the most hilarious thing. It was even just doing that number alone. It's the music. It's just
the music.
It's so well written.
So brilliant. If you put that album on every day, I'd be happy.
It's like dirty laundry ladies. Yeah. That's what it is. Da 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 da. Oh, it's amazing
number. Brilliant. Stephen Mears choreography. Love it.
Then you went on to Chitty Bang Bang under Gillian Lynn.
Yes, lovely Gillian. Bless her.
I know.
Bless her up in heaven, smiling down on us and doing cats.
What was it like working with Gillian?
She's bonkers. She was bonkers. Brilliantly bonkers. There's so many people in our industry that are bonkers in the most brilliant way. and she was one of them. The way her brain works, she would literally be in the rehearsal room creating it on us and be like, you could see the cogs working for her to work out exactly how she wanted it. And we'd do like 50 versions of everything. And
so it was quite an organic approach with her.
Yeah, her and her associates, Frank Thompson and Alex Worrell, genius little team, like creating it all. And like bless as well, like Frank and Alex, you have to like keep up with Gillian because she'll be in like one place and going like, let's do this, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 seconds later, she'll be on the other side of the room going, and then we're going to do this. And they're like going, wait there, what was that? What was that? What was it? So they were literally out coming going, what are those counts? What did she say? She's gone again. She's mad.
I had one meeting with Gillian, again at drama school. We were doing Cats as one of our final shows. And of course, it was all the original choreography. And for the audition process, she came in to sit down and watch. But when she came in, you can imagine, we didn't see her come in, but I thought, it's got to be limousine. And as she walked in, she'd got her sunglasses on, sat down in front of us all. And at one point they said, does anyone have any extra skills, like tumbling? So I said, well, yeah, I can do walkovers, like one after the other.
Yeah.
And absolutely buggered it up, like gloriously. I just remember doing what was supposed to be a walkover, ended up being a handstand. And bearing in mind, I cannot handstand to save my life. I've never been able to do it. And I was just there balancing. I was thinking, oh my God, go over, please go over. and it just didn't happen for ages. And it was but then all of a sudden, my legs just flopped like that and hit the deck. And I came up very, very slowly. And I remember thinking, oh no, that was so embarrassing. So I just shouldered my leg. And then she did the most brilliant thing. She grabbed the top of her glasses like that, pulled them down, looked at me, smiled, put them back up, and just did that. I mean, like, absolute jokes. It was one of the best moments of my life, although it was very embarrassing.
Brilliant.
Bless her. She's an amazing woman. You were in Saturday Night Fever and you played Bobby C.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome. I had so much fun. I've been in the ensemble a lot. And there's like the odd job here and there where I've played a leading role. And Bobby C was one of those. We did a UK tour of the show. It was brilliant. And I was Bobby C, but I also understudied Tony Manero. So it was kind of like amazing to do the two roles because obviously they're so very, very different character-wise. And actually, like the understudying of Tony Manero, like I kind of struggled with playing Tony mentally because I didn't quite believe that I could do it. It took quite a few goes of going on and playing it for me to feel confident enough in my abilities to be that character. But it was like a really kind of good learning curve for me to know that of what I was actually capable of and to not just like assume what I could or couldn't do. And I just love Bobby C because I got to sing Tragedy and I got to die at the end, so it's great. And we had really, really good fun traveling around the country and seeing all the amazing places.
After that, you did at the National Theatre a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum.
Yes.
And then that led you on to Beauty and the Beast at the RSC. Now, it's not the Beauty and the Beast Disney that we all know. It's a very, very different show.
Oh my God.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. I kind of went into this like amazing period in my career where I was doing like these like really highfalutin fancy jobs. We're doing the National, going, I'm in the National, darling. And then literally went, oh, and now you're going to do a show at the RSC in Stratford. And I was like, I am a Shakespearean actor. I've gone from tap dancing at 7 years old to the RSC, darling. But the show, and the Beauty and the Beast, it was like, oh, I'm doing the Beauty and the Beast, great. And obviously I knew it wasn't the Disney Beauty and the Beast, but I was like, great. But it was like, it was an amazing kind of conceptual version. There was an ensemble of about 7 or 8 of us. Most of us were good mates from before we did the job as well. So we literally had the most fun that possibly that I've ever had on stage, because it was absolutely like, we were like, what's happening? What are we doing here? But it was like, for most of the show, we were like the ensemble. And for most of the show, we literally wore like black floor-length coats with white faces and black sunglasses, or like a I don't know, like a Greek chorus, or it was. And then at certain points we came out of those parts to play like little characters and what have you. It was full on, like, and to work with like some like incredible actors. What's brilliant as well is when same as at the National, where you can be pulled out of what you're doing to kind of work on some new concept stuff, like in the rehearsal studios, whilst you're working on a show at the National. At the RSC, we were doing workshops and lectures, or listening to lectures about Shakespeare, and all the historical kind of information about all the text and the prose and all of that. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience, to be at that theatre within that company. It was awesome.
Did you perform in the Swan, or was it the main house?
For Beauty and the Beast, we were in the Royal Shakespeare Theatre.
Right.
But for when I was in Yog as a child, we did a show at the Swan Theatre called the Swan Songbook. And so I worked when I was like 12 years old, I did this show with Yog at the Swan Theatre. So I knew that I performed in both theatres. I knew that theatre already. The Swan is like adorable. Like, it's the most beautiful theatre. It was funny. I'd almost forgotten about that job. That's really funny that you brought that up. And also, I understudied as well. Like we as ensemble, we understudied all the main parts. And the character that I understudied was a robot that the Beast had built. And so I had there was this amazing costume that had like a sound box on the front of it. It had wires that went through to your hands that made like springs and boing sounds. So you had to press them as you walked. You had to press them at the right time to make the noises happen. And as you moved, you would make the noises happen, and it was so hard.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. But we didn't. Luckily, with shorter runs, it's highly unlikely, unless someone gets particularly, ill. Quite rare to get to go on for your understudy if it's a shorter contract, and especially with Shakespearean actors, they certainly don't want to be off the stage. So I never got to go on in a performance, but we had like understudy runs and what have you. So, and again, it was literally another peg going. I didn't think I could do that, and I ended up doing a pretty good job, I thought. But I remember that trying to work out the movement with the pressing the buttons on the hands at the same time as thinking, what character am I playing? It's like, wah! It was bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Whenever I got offered like a job or was going to audition for a job, I always wanted it to be something that I would come out of it with like a new skill or having learned something. And that generally happens anyway, because, you learn about yourself as you interact with different people in this world, as we know. But yeah, like I always like to do jobs that would mean that I'd come out with another skill or what have you. That's why I was always so desperate to do Starlight, because I was like, I want to be like the best roller skater ever. But it didn't quite happen. But
you went into Guys and Dolls.
Yes.
And was that your first experience of Dance Captain?
It was. And it was also my shortest experience of Dance Captain. I took over from Ben Clare, who I lived with for many, many years. We met on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and worked together again on Guys and Dolls. And we lived together for about 12 years. Amazing, amazing guy. And he was leaving Guys and Dolls. So I took over as the dance captain, but I don't think I did it for very, very long because the show was already kind of set up. There wasn't a cast change. I never taught a cast change. So I never actually taught the show. I basically maintained it for the last part of its life in the West End. But yes, that was my first kind of taster of dance captain. Not that at that point I thought that my career was going to head in that direction. I kind of ended up doing that job because someone went, do you want to do it? And I went, yeah, sure. Not having thought about that as a career kind of trajectory at all.
You worked with the incredible Ewan McGregor as well. How was that?
He's amazing.
Ah.
He's so wonderful. When you're like the biggest name above the title and you're the lead, there's this unwritten thing that like you lead the company. Like they react and respond as to how you behave in the building. So like when you hear these like horror stories of like famous people being an absolute idiot behind the scenes, whatever, it just really breaks my heart, because working with Ewan on Guys and Dolls and him being there before warm-up started, doing the whole warm-up with everybody, going around, hugging everyone, kissing everyone, saying hello, how's your day, literally giving his time and loving every single second of being in that job and being on that stage and being in that company. You just go, there's no excuse to be a twat about it. He was literally a godsend. All of them were. Ewan, Jane Krakowski, Dougie Hodge and Jenna Russell. One of the best jobs I've ever done. It was awesome.
Oh.
And the show was incredible as well. You know, Don Mar Guys and Dolls, directed by Michael Grandage and choreographed by Rob Ashford. Yes, please. I'll do it again now. 5-minute call. I'm on. Just the best time.
And do you know something? Jenna Russell is one of my favourites. I think she's so talented.
One of the highest quality triple threats we've got. You know, Jenna, Sally Ann Triplett, Anna Jane Casey. Those guys are just like legends.
When at the Leicester Haymarket, Sally Ann Triplett took over from Lindsay Haitley and then became Nancy.
Oh.
So I got to work with her for a short time.
Amazing.
Back then, I didn't really know who she was, but it was only discovering over the years growing up with musical theatre. Well, I learned exactly who she was, and I was just like, wow, like that's so cool.
So all three of them as well, Jenna, Sally and Anna, they're just like the loveliest people. They're brilliant.
Top notch.
Lucky boy, got to work with very nice people.
Yes. You went on to play in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Which was one of the most expensive shows I have ever seen. I mean, that was fantastic. Like, it, you know, such a 4D experience of theatre, really.
Yeah.
I remember it being really hot. And these fans out, you know, just because
oh God, yeah.
You had to fan yourself down. When you're in the show, did you have to train to do specific skills within the show that you hadn't done before?
Yeah. We literally spent 6 months learning skills. Then we did, I think it was a 6 or 8 week tech period, which is normally like 2 weeks for a show, and then into the run. So basically, when we first started on the first like few days of rehearsals, we started to learn some skills all together, and then whoever kind of like picked the skill up or was, you know, showed promise in what was going to be required of them, then the roles and the kind of the individual skills were handed out. And when we first started, there was a part where they attached us to bungee ropes, and you had to learn to kind of like bounce yourself and do flips and then land yourself down again and everything. I started to do it, and I was like, this is mine. This is what I'm going to be doing. So literally at the end of like one of the very first kind of rehearsals for the bit, I went to the guy who was teaching the circus skills and whatever and said, I just want to let you know that I'm going to do this bit. I'm going to like work really, really hard. And I'm like, I feel like I've got the skills to do this, and I'm going to do this bit. This is going to be my bit. And he was like, okay, great. And I did it. And I did it.
Oh, cool.
It was awesome. It was so good. I was one of the elves in the Lothlorien number where Laura Michelle Kelly first comes down the tree.
Yes.
I was one of the elves that comes down on a piece of rope and then falls back off it and bounces and does flips and then catches the rope back again and hangs and does all that.
I mean, how could you ever forget that scene? It was so impressive.
You're like, what? And Laura Michelle Kelly's just on some ropes going, oh, child, oh. She does brilliant, amazing.
I mean, and her voice is incredible as well. So it was a very magical moment within the show anyway.
Laura Michelle Kelly and Rosalie Craig. What? Voices of Doom.
And what was it like working with such a complex set? Because that baby moved and it was up and down.
It was terrifying. It was like the beast that we had to master. Like we had a period where there was one of the battle scenes where all the lifts rise up and move. It's the whole stage is revolving, and there's an inner and an outer revolve with I think it was 12. It was either 12 or 15 podiums that moved up and down individually to change like the formation. Once it had been installed in the theatre, we went into the theatre for like 4 days or whatever to practice what we learnt on a flat floor, because we had a revolve in the rehearsal room, but it didn't have the hydraulics, so we couldn't do that part of it. So we went to the theatre once that had been put in to practice and see what was working and what wasn't, and then we came away and worked again on what we could then do before we then went back again. So it was just epic, but also terrifying, because obviously during the run, one of the cast members got seriously injured with getting his leg trapped in the stage. So we had to shut the show down for a few days to to have the safety analysis and work out why it happened and fix it. And then, of course, we then had to go in and rehearse and be reassured that we were in a safe environment. It was all very dramatic, but thankfully the guy is absolutely fine, and he's had a career beyond it, and some scars, but physical and mental, but he's good, and the producers and the team were very good at obviously sorting it out and getting the safety aspect absolutely up to scratch. But it was pretty terrifying.
I remember the one scene which I felt it was just so impressive because you felt completely immersed in it. I think it was when the Bell Rock came out, and
at the end of that one,
just wind, like
right.
This hot wind and all these bits like flying, and just like whoa, like, and you really felt, although you were just sat in your seat, like you did feel like so a part of that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why like they built all the trees out on the side of the set and everything. They completely redesigned the theatre really for it. It was really impressive. It was just huge. One of the other things that I got to do when I was on for Gollum, because I understudied Gollum, the very first thing that Gollum did was like crawl down the front cloth from the sky. It was just like the most fun. It was just awesome.
But when you climbed down, you were upside down, weren't you?
Yeah. So it was kind of like you were. It was so clever. It was like a bird's eye view of you crawling along the floor. Basically, you were looking from above. The whole Gollum look, all the makeup and everything was more makeup and more costume than I've ever did get to or ever will get to wear. It was just amazing. And it was all done like every night by the makeup artist, the Wiggy that had the makeup skills. She was just amazing. It was like a Shrek job. It was like, an hour in the chair getting ready. It was a lot.
And it was so physical, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's what I loved so much about Gollum was that I could use my physicality as well as my acting ability to create this, this incredible creature. I mean, he's just, he's iconic. It was so much fun. It was brilliant. I loved it. Every time I went on, I was just like, I'm so happy. Also, what was great was that I did get to go on a lot because the guy who played it, because of the physical kind of nature of it, at a certain point I did the matinees for him. He didn't do like every show of the week, so I would do Thursday performances. And beyond our year contract, they extended it a little bit. And at the end, the guy who played Michael Terrio, who played Gollum, had to go back. He was a Canadian, and he had to go back to Canada he'd already had another job to film, and so I got to finish the run out as Gollum, which was just like amazing. I just loved it. Kevin Wallace, who was the main lead producer on the show, he talks about doing it again all the time. I mean, I don't know how he would ever raise the money again, because it must have cost an absolute fortune. But he does often speak about wanting to do it again. There's always talk of it happening, but it was such a kind of a unique piece of theatre. I don't know whether we'll ever see anything like it again. It was funny because when I did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I said to like friends and family, I said, I don't think I'm ever going to do anything this big ever again. And then Lord of the Rings came along, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
as in like big as in scale. Once you've seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang flying around the Palladium, you think, that's me done. And then you see Laura Michelle Kelly being lowered in a tree from the sky in the Drury Lane. It's bonkers. I thought it was a great show. I loved it.
You covered like so much of what we were going to talk about anyway.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, you're really sharp on this. From there, you went on and featured in the ensemble in Candide for the English National Opera.
Yes, which was kind of bonkers, because the story with that job and that show is that, as I said, Lord of the Rings did like a year, and then they wanted to extend it for 12 weeks. And they could only do that if enough people said, yes, we'll stay for 12 weeks, because they didn't want to spend out for a whole like cast change and auditions and rehearsals and everything. So basically, if not enough people in the Lord of the Rings cast said, yes, we'll stay, they were just going to end it. They wouldn't do the extra 12 weeks. But because there was kind of enough people to do the 12-week extension, myself and another performer called Wayne Fitzsimmons auditioned and asked to do Candide at the ENO. And so we went to the Lord of the Rings producers and said, we'd love to stay for the 12 weeks, but we've already got another job, which is on these days, because obviously at the ENO, it's in rep. So you don't do a performance every day. It's only like certain days when you do a performance. So we went to the Lord of the Rings producers and went, we'd love to stay, but we've got another job that would mean that we wouldn't be able to do the show on these days. And they went, okay. So for like half the week, we'd go and do Lord of the Rings. And then for half the week, we'd go to the ENO and do Candide. So we were like in 2 West End shows at the same time. It was brilliant.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
We were like, they're never going to say yes to this. And they were like, okay. And so on those days, we just weren't at Lord of the Rings. And we didn't turn up to the wrong theatre once, which is great. That was double checking the calendar time, that was.
Yes, which one am I tonight? Like,
turn up at the ENO in Candide dressed as Gollum. Great.
From there, you went into Le Cage aux Folles.
Yeah.
Amazing show. It's probably one of the best shows I have seen. Well, in terms of like classic revival, you were part of the Cagels, weren't you? And
that was
Dancing in Heels. Please tell me what that was like.
Well, to be fair, now that I've worked on Kinky Boot, our heels in Le Cage were not that high, really. Right. I think we had like 2 pairs of shoes that were kind of like standard kind of heel, but like the can number that you do in Le Cage aux Folles, our heels were pretty short. I mean, you're still dancing in heels, yes, granted, but yeah, I'm a heel snob now because I know what's deemed like a decent heel and what's impressive and what's not. You know, hands up, I didn't know Le Cage very well at all when I got the job. And obviously now I know and have experienced the fact that it's literally one of the greatest musicals that's ever been written. That and Guys and Dolls are just like unbelievably brilliant. Same as, you know, with Guys and Dolls, there's something about being part of those classic musicals that makes the experience even more special. And the cast again that we had, absolute friends for life. Like you cannot be in the Cagels and not absolutely become sisters. It's impossible. And those guys that I did that show with, I still message them like, you know, as often as possible and check in with them and see them when we can see people. It was just awesome. And also, again, hands up, the drunkest time of my life. Like, we would literally finish the show and go straight out, get back home at like whatever hour of the morning and get up and go and do the show again. Like, I've never done a show with more hangovers in my life. Again, it kind of was a product of the show. Like the Cagels are like the you know, the party. They are the party. When they arrive, the party starts, and it was like the party started and the party carried on. And also at the same time, Priscilla was down the road as well at the same time. Okay. So obviously, all the drag queens from Priscilla and all the drag queens from Le Cage lived in Soho for like however many months. It was just bonkers.
It was all method, right?
Absolutely. It was character analysis. That's what that was. But again, amazing cast. Dougie Hodge, again, leading the cast like an absolute star and giving like arguably the best performance I've ever seen in a musical ever. He was just unbelievable. And I got to stand on stage and like watch him. It was like amazing. Yeah.
I mean, there was like 3 or 4 bits in there. From a musical number perspective with Douglas, one thing that I remember very clearly, well, there was 2 numbers, was putting a little bit more mascara on. That was masterclass in terms of acting.
Yeah. And to see the hours that he rehearsed that as well.
Oh, right.
To get that absolutely right, like meticulously getting it right as to what happened where at what point. It was just like incredible.
How do you start that process of being able to just do that and not even really think about it anymore?
You have to repetitively do it until it becomes second nature. You know, you work out what happens on what note or what beat or what word or what part of what word, and then you do it again and again and again and again until it literally becomes like you're just doing it.
And then, of course, I Am What I Am. I remember watching him, you could hear nothing at all.
At the start of the number, we, as the Cagels, would come on. It's like the start of the show. It's like their cabaret act is starting, as it always does every single night, and then you start and you're there, and then he just stops everyone and goes, stop, you know. And that moment every night of him stopping us and then us like going off stage like, oh, something's wrong. It was literally makes me want to cry just thinking about it. It's like, it was just unbelievable.
Like right at the end of the song, you sit there and you're literally like,
right. It's one of those end about ones where you're like, I'm going to miss half this interval because I've just got to like breathe for a minute.
Yeah, like, and it's almost like you forget to clap, like, because you're like,
yeah.
Oh wait, hang on. Like, he was amazing. He was so good.
It's stunning. And he literally did it every single night, like literally ripped his heart out on stage and left it on there. It's amazing. He's incredible.
One thing that I remember from the show was, I think it may have been the Can number. Forgive me if I've got that wrong. But I remember all of the Cargels lining up towards the front of the stage, literally jumping into split. Yeah. And I think you did it again. Like, you know, I can't remember how many times you did it, but it was just like, wow, that was so cool.
The fun thing about that was that you jump in the split and everyone goes, oh my God, amazing. And then you get up and then you go down again and they all go, wow. It's really clever. Very good.
It was so good. I mean, I'm quite flexible anyway, so like that would be really fun to do.
Yeah. Exhausting and fun.
And then you went into Legally Blonde.
Yes.
With the lovely Sheridan Smith.
Who I already knew because when I was at college, I assisted the choreographer who was my tap teacher, Kay Shepherd. It was my tap teacher at Lane. She was the choreographer for the National Youth Music Theatre. Mm-hmm. So when I was at college, she was choreographing Bugsy Malone. It went to Edinburgh and then came to the West End. And Sheridan was Tallulah in that version of National Youth Music Theatre. So I already knew Sheridan from like years and years ago, but I hadn't seen her like since then. And then we did Legally Blonde together, yeah. And
I thought she was exceptional in that show, playing a part that after seeing her in 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, and then playing this, you know, fluffy, all pink inspired woman.
I remember sitting on the side of the rehearsal room with her quite early on, and you know, saying, you know, how's it going? How are you feeling? Everything. And she said, I'm absolutely terrified because everyone's just waiting for me to get this wrong. And I was like, but you're not going to. And she didn't. She absolutely smashed it out of the park. In the celebrity casting era, well, you know, which we have lived through and are living through, and always will live through, because you know that people want to see familiar faces on stage and on screen. There are celebrities that haven't got the goods that are put there for the reason of selling tickets, which is a shame. And then there are others that have got the goods and will deliver and will give you, you know, a great performance. And Sheridan is one of those. You know, she has got the talent to back it up. She's brilliant.
I couldn't agree more. I sat there. It was a humble pie moment, because you go, well, actually, hand it to you. You were brilliant. Yeah. She was so good. And I remember you
would go and try and give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, you think, well, you've been cast in this role, so hopefully that's because you walked into an audition room, smashed it out the park, and they went, that's our leading lady, that's our leading man. I think it's always better to go and assume that they're going to be great. And then if they're not, you can walk out and go, well, most of the time people do a great job.
But going from the show that I'd seen her in previously, which was Little Shop of Horrors, I thought was quite different. I remember watching her performance of Somewhere That's Green, and mind blown. You know, we were sat quite close to the stage, and we could see tears, and you know, and it was.
I did get to see that production, but I bet like Audrey's like the perfect role for Sheridan. You can literally, I you know, knowing her and knowing what she can do, I know that she would have absolutely been incredible in that role.
I adored her in it. I sat there and I just went, wow.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, to the point where I felt like I could cry, because I connected with her so much from the start right to the end of that song, and I was just like, "You're living that."
Yeah,
and that's such a skill to have as a performer.
Oh yeah,
just an amazing girl. So no wonder she did so well in Legally Blonde.
Yeah, she was great, and that again was like super fun show to do. First time that I'd worked with Jerry as well, Jerry Mitchell. It was great. I loved it. And also, like Michael and I always say this, Legally Blonde is pretty much the perfect musical. There is not a lot wrong with that musical, if anything.
then you went on to be resident choreographer in Ghost.
Yes. So when I was doing Legally, I had a small understudy and it was ensemble. And I remember I used to do a quick change under the stage. And I remember going down and getting changed. I was in the middle of a quick change and it literally clicked in my head saying, I need to do something more. I need to do something to challenge my brain here. And from a performer's like, whether you're on, ensemble, swing, choreographer, whatever that is, I was like, I want more. That thought had entered my head. And then just after that, Ashley Wallen, who was the choreographer for Ghost, contacted me because I'd worked with him in the commercial world a couple of times doing some adverts. And he had been asked to choreograph Ghost the musical. And so he contacted me and said, could we go and have a coffee? I've got this job I want to talk to you about. And he asked me if I would be the associate choreographer on it. Then just beyond that, his usual associate became available for the job, who I know as well, Jenny Griffin, who's like, amazing. And so she was able to do the job, to do Ghost as the associate. So they then asked me if I would then be the dance captain and the resident choreographer. So that was like the perfect first kind of step into that world for me. Kind of a crazy one as well, because Ghost was so technical. Like for my first job as a swing, oh my God, like in the subway scenes when it's all dark and everyone's literally in black with black hoods on with a bit of mesh, so you can just see black mesh, so you can see what you're doing. To be able to swing that now, knowing, having been a swing and an associate choreographer for so long, like that was a lot. that was a big swing job. And also within the choreography, all the ensemble for most of the numbers walked around in like just random patterns that they made up themselves so like all the swing maps just look like a 5-year-old's drawing. Like, Glenn, this is a tree. It was really, really one of the hardest jobs to swing, and it was the first time that I'd ever swung and dance captained, from scratch. So yeah, that was quite a big job actually. I hadn't thought that before.
I think my swing file would be like that thick.
Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Again, Casey and Richard and Sharon D. Clark and Andy Langtree, amazing like company leaders. They just were like so awesome. And Ghost was like kind of like a true modern musical, like with the usage of the screen, the video screens and everything was so clever and so technological. But I really feel like the show had the heart and delivered the kind of the emotional part of the story so well. That I kind of wish that it had a slightly longer life. A little show about the Spice Girls popped up, and so we had to get out of the theatre because that was going to be a massive hit.
Yikes.
And the rest is history.
It's one of my biggest regrets, actually, Ghost. I didn't get to see it.
Ah, shame. It was a great show.
I got to see the other one. But, I mean... You were also the artistic director for West End Bears.
I was.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what the premise of that was and why you set that up?
So, the premise of West End Bears is a night of fundraising for HIV, specifically for the Theatre Mad, which raises money for HIV, people suffering from HIV, and also organisations that help with the education and teaching about the stigma of HIV and AIDS. And it started in America, like 30 years ago. It was started by Jerry Mitchell, the Broadway choreographer. Mm-hmm. And basically the AIDS epidemic had just broken out, and all the performers on Broadway wanted to do something to help, because obviously their friends were, getting infected, as we've seen with the amazing It's a Sin TV series. People didn't know what was going on, what was happening. In New York City, there were fundraisers going on. They were quite expensive to get to buy. People were obviously trying to raise the money by charging, large amounts for people to go to these fundraisers. And so Jerry and the guys that were in the show that he was working in at the time, they decided that they were going to go down to a bar in New York called Splash, which was a gay bar in Manhattan. And they decided they were going to go down and they were going to strip. They were going to perform a strip and raise as much money as they possibly could. And they literally started it in a bar. They raised, loads of money. People went absolutely crazy for it, because you got these amazing hot, Broadway performers, boys. I think the first one was all boys, but obviously now it's boys, girls. Everybody in America and on Broadway now literally lives to be a part of Broadway Bears. That was literally the start of it. They just wanted to raise some money to try and help, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And now they literally have they raise over $1 million on the night. And it's legendary. And they'd never really done a West End Bears. They'd never really kind of brought it over here. And I think they may have done a couple just around when I was when I was leaving college and entering the business, and there may have been one or two, but it didn't really take off. It wasn't a particularly large event. And and when I worked with Jerry on Legally Blonde, I kind of was having a conversation with him, and I was kind of pestering him and going, when are you going to do West End Bears? You're over here now. When can we do West End Bears? When are you going to do West End Bears? And so he turned around to me and he said, well, if you want West End Bears to happen, you do it. Well, I'll help you with advice and how to make it work and what's good to do and what's not good to do, anything. But you do it. And I went, okay, fine, I will. I went to Theatre Mad and kind of said, Jerry's kind of given me permission to do this. So, we should do this. And so West End Bears was born, and we did the first one in 2010 at Café de Paris, and it was just on this tiny little stage. There was about 20, again, the same kind of way that Broadway started off, just really, really small. And obviously we had the knowledge that people knew what the Bears franchise was, which is basically performers from the West End performing to a theme. Every year has a different theme, and they strip down to whatever they're comfortable stripping down to. Most ideally nothing, but it's all very tastefully done. That's what's so great about it. It is very performative and kind of burlesque, in its nakedness. It's just really exciting to see those performers that you see, when you go to the theatre in these shows, and see a completely different side of them, and see them just having fun and being really, really hot. It's a great way to get people to part with their money.
Clothing.
For a really good cause. So I did the first 5 years, and then I kind of passed the mantle on, because it, as amazing as it literally took over my life for 6 months to organize it on the top of all the work that I was doing with shows and in my career as well. So I set myself the goal of doing the first 5 years and establishing it, and then passing it on for someone else. And also, I think it's good for it to have a different kind of driving force and a different kind of creative mind, creating it. So I passed it on to David Grucock, and he's just completed 5 years. They moved into a West End theatre from Café de Paris during David's kind of reign, and now this year just gone, David's now passed it on to Will J. Lucas, who's blessed for his first one has had to cope with all of this drama and create it on a completely different platform, but he did an amazing job. And so hopefully this year they'll be able, by the time we get to West End Bears time, they'll be able to be back in the theatre and taking all them clothes off.
You then moved on to ruling class at Trafalgar Studios,
Yes.
which was your first choreographer's job. Is that right?
Was. Correct. It was so bizarre, but bizarrely brilliant. It was literally one of those stories that you kind of hear about happening to other people, but it actually happened to me, in that I was doing Dirty Rotten Scoundrels at the Savoy, and the producers, ATG, were also in charge of Trafalgar Studios, which Jamie Lloyd was doing the ruling class at. And Jamie had been Michael Grandage's assistant on Guys and Dolls back in the day, Ewan McGregor, thinking it all back. And Jamie, obviously, since then, had become this like brilliant genius visionary director. He had decided for ruling class that he wanted to work with someone who was relatively new to the choreography world side of things. I'm not sure if he mentioned my name or if Emily, from the producer from ATG, mentioned my name to him. Whichever way round that happened, he went, great, let's talk to Darren. Let's have a meeting with him and see if he's up for it or what he thinks and everything. And so I went to have a meeting with Jamie about it, and it was literally like 15 minutes in between whilst tech was going on for Assassins at the Menier. We had this conversation, and he was like, I just wanted to give someone that hasn't really done anything at the moment an opportunity to do something. We had a conversation about it and what the job was, and I got told I was having the meeting with Jamie the day before. So I stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning watching the film of the ruling class and reading the entire script, because I was like, I have got to know my shit. This is it. This is an opportunity. I can't fuck this up. So I literally stayed up like watching this crazy, if anyone's seen the ruling class, it's a crazy play, film, whatever. It's bonkers. And I was like at 3 o'clock in the morning going, what is happening? This is crazy. And and then got up, had like 4 hours sleep, got back up and went to meet Jamie Lloyd and was like, I'm particularly like the moment and blah, 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 and knew my shit and ended up choreographing the play, which is a really crazy play as well. Like, it's like they do these like, you just all of a sudden get like a really like vaudevillian like kind of number in the middle of this really serious play about class and politics and what have you. So, but yeah, it was an absolute out of the blue shock and joy to do it. It was great.
So you have been the associate choreographer on Kinky Boots and the Christmasaurus, but could you tell us a little bit about Kinky Boots and those heels?
I love those heels. I'm just gutted that I didn't actually in the end end up with a pair of boots, because they were like they cost like £2,000 each. Those boots, they are expensive. The story with Kinky Boots is that originally Jerry asked me if I wanted to be in the show as one of the angels, and I actually went back to him and said, because the ruling class job had happened and the choreography, I'd had that kind of like taster of doing the choreography. I kind of thought, if I say yes to doing this job and I'm in it, that's going to tie me to this to this building and this contract for the next year. And then the thing that comes up choreography wise for me, I potentially won't be able to do. So I'm going to take myself off the stage, because the whole being a choreographer thing, I never thought that I was going to end up doing that. In the first half of my career, even, I didn't really have any inclination to choreograph, or didn't think I had the mental skills to choreograph something. And it was only in the second kind of half of my career that I started to have those thoughts and those processes of thinking, well, I wouldn't, like when something was being choreographed, thinking, well, I wouldn't do that. Maybe we would have done that, or this would look good if we did that. And so I then started to kind of believe that I could do that. So then when the ruling class choreography job came through, I thought, oh, hold on a second, maybe this is the path that I'm kind of like headed on. And so I thought, I kind of thought, well, if I talked about this to Jerry and say, ideally, I would like to obviously work on the show look after it choreographically because of the specificity of the heels and having that someone there with, you know, choreographically to look after it, I would still then be able to kind of like take myself away from the show, or have some, you know, small amounts of free time from the show to then therefore do any choreography jobs that come my way. As ever, Jerry was absolutely amazing and gracious and said that he had no problem with that whatsoever. So I therefore then became the associate choreographer and was able to do little bits and bobs, you know, at the same time as looking after Kinky Boots, which was, you know, it just absolute joy because, hey, it's Kinky Boots. It's all about love. It was one of those shows where you literally got mail to the company saying, I brought my son to watch this show. It's completely changed his life. You know, we came and watched this show and we left the theatre considering the way that we view the world, and it's changed the way that we think and everything. And that's all the gold at the end of the rainbow for a musical, to change the way that people live their lives by having gone and watched a piece of theatre. It's literally made them rethink the way they behave as human beings. That's incredible.
Carrying on with your choreography, you've been a choreographer to quite a few shows within drama schools, especially Guildford School of Acting and the Arts Educational Schools. Mahol. Could you tell me a little bit about your experience working with young adults going into the profession?
It's been one of the best things for me as a choreographer to, you know, to find my way and find my style, and at the same time it's been like so amazing for me, like as a performer and as a human being, to see all the kids like literally working their asses off and starting that journey that I'm at a certain point on. I'm always going to say that I'm coming to the end. I'm not coming to the end of my journey. No. Please don't stop. But yeah, to be able to look back and see that, to see them at the start of that is so exciting. I know it sounds really corny, but it really is. Like seeing like Danielle Fiamania like playing the lead in 9 to 5 at Guildford, and then going and watching her in Anne and Juliet is like, you know, and remember how exciting that was to be starting out. And so that's what's so brilliant about teaching and choreographing at the colleges. And also it's just like they're so accommodating and so eager to learn. The colleges are accommodating, you know, bringing in a professional from the industry to teach the students. They're just brilliant. And the kids are just like, they're like sponges. They're just incredible. And both colleges, you know, Guildford and Arts Ed are the work ethic is just awesome. It's brilliant. You know, I know the work ethic at Lane's is incredible because I was there. I was part of it. I know that firsthand. But to then go and teach at other colleges as well. I've been teaching some classes at Performers as well, and the kids are just brilliant. They're just like they're so like bloody talented. That's sickening.
As a choreographer,
yes,
how do you approach a project? What is your go-to formula?
My go-to formula, if there is a go-to formula, let's say, is research, look at the material, decide on a time frame, decide on a style. Then I would start playing with some vocabulary. Then I would start, you know, linking little bits together. What I quite often do is I literally just put my phone on and I just like put the music on that I've got to choreograph to, and I just dance around. And then I'll watch the video back and I'll go, I like that step. And then I'll try and like marry some bits bobs together. That's like one way of doing it. Sometimes I literally just put it on and go, right, how are we going to start this? It's different. There's different ways of doing it, I suppose.
Yeah, there are different ways. I mean, one of the things that I tend to do is I look at everything from bird's eye view. I like to see shapes and see how the shapes tell the story.
Sure.
And then everything kind of builds around those shapes. That's my first approach. So it's really interesting to see how other people.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing. that is, you know, as kind of as vague as it is to say, everyone's different. Like that's one of the great things about choreography, is that everyone has got a different kind of approach to it. And everyone, no matter what approach you make, you can still make something beautiful.
Friendsical the musical.
Friendsical the musical. Again, came out of nowhere. The lady that wrote Friendsical the musical, Miranda Larson, she also wrote the script for the Christmasaurus. And we just met on the Christmasaurus, said hello and had, you know, conversations during that. And out of the blue, phoned me and said, "Hi, I've got this job. I was wondering if you wanted to you know, to do it." And I was like, "Sure, let's make a musical about friends." Brilliant.
Really interesting, because that's a series that people know also well.
Yes.
Did you
really well
elements of that within your choreography?
Yeah, defo. Yeah, we got all we had to put like all the, you know, the Ross and Monica dances in there. There's all those little moments. There's, you know, there's Fat Monica doing a little dance and everything. You have to, because it's like, if you get, it's a homage to the show, and so those moments are the bits that the audience, they're coming for that. You know, they want to come and be reminded of all those little moments. And Miranda's like, I mean, she's like a Friends super fan, like scarily brilliantly knowledgeable about the Friends. And within the script, she's crammed so much into that script. Like, there is literally, when you say, "Oh, how are you going to fit, like, what is it, 10 or 11 seasons into one show?" She can't. Yeah, she's done it. She had a good job. She had a good try. It's like there's loads in it. It really is. Pretty much everything is in there. What's lovely as well is like all the people did some the ensemble like pop up as different like characters as well. So get as many, and some people play, like the guy who plays Chandler also plays the Paolo, the boyfriend and everything. They all rock up as different people. It's fun. Right. It's really fun.
You are currently working on Back to the Future, is that right?
I am.
Not currently, but...
Well, I am actually. I literally, every night at the moment, I'm going over the choreography to try and make sure that I know it for when we start rehearsals, because the second those rehearsals start, we're in, and I've got to know what's going on. And the last time anybody did anything on stage in Back to the Future was a year ago. We managed to do opening night in Manchester. We were do out of town in Manchester for like 5 months last year. And we got to opening night, which was on a Wednesday, filmed Sport Relief on the Thursday, and on that Monday was lockdown. They closed it. So we literally just got opening night in, thank goodness.
That's phenomenal.
It's coming to the West End. It's really good. I think it's really good. It's a big old fun musical. So Power of Love's in there, Johnny B. Good's in there, Earth Angel, and Back in Time as well. But all the rest of the music is all original music by Glenn Ballard. And it's really cool. There's some really good songs in there. There's one song called Put Your Mind to It, which is super cool. It's rocking.
It's rocking. I love that.
It is.
I'm a massive fan of the original film anyway. Right. I think the concept is amazing. I think one thing I'm eager to see is how the car works.
Right.
Is it cool?
It's really cool.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. So, Darren, I have got some viewer questions that I would ask you if you wouldn't mind answering. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Very good question. And the answer is never say never. I nearly mentioned it earlier in the chat. When Kinky Boots happened, I said, I'm going to take myself off the stage. I'm going to see how the choreography thing goes. If it goes great, great. I have a job. If it doesn't go great, I could always go back on stage and do some performing. I've never said that I'm not performing ever again, but at the moment, I'm riding this wave and heading down this path, and we'll see where it leads. It was a dream come true. I was like, I'm in a Disney film! I was so excited. It was the process. It was really hard work. Actually, we did like, I think it was like two weeks rehearsals, because obviously like the whole ballroom scene was it's only a certain length, and you only see certain shots of us dancing in the ballroom. But that number was literally like, there was two numbers. There was two kind of like styles of ballroom dance. There was a polka, and there was a bit more waltzy, I think. And so you have to film like the whole number, and then obviously it gets chopped and changed around within the film. So it was a lot of choreography to learn. And also we did like 50 versions of it, because the way that they wanted to film it, they had to like work out as like dances were happening, where people would be walking down because the scene was happening while dancing was happening. And so you had to kind of do it and then look, and then you kind of change a little bit, and then go, okay, now we're going to try this pattern. Maybe this pattern will look nice, depending on where the camera is, etc. So it was a lot of processing through different versions to finally end up with the one, which was, draining, but it was a really good group of people on it. We had a lot of fun. Even like getting up, we'd have to be at the studios at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So you'd get there, then you'd have a little bit of a sleep. Then breakfast a bit like 6:30. Then you'd be like, oh, I don't want to eat, but I've got to, because this is all I'm going to eat today. And then you go and get like your wig and makeup and costume on. And then I'd literally get my wig and makeup on, get my costume on, and then lie down on the floor and go to sleep for an hour before you got called to set. Because I was like, I've got to sleep, because I've been awake since like God knows what time. So yeah, it was hard work, but it was really fun. And like at one point we'd been in a rehearsal room, and they walked Rob Ashford and Pip Jordan, his assistant, and Chris Bailey was there as well, I think, who is the choreographer of Back to the Future, who was Rob Ashford's assistant for a very long time. We all walked over whilst they were building the ballroom set. So we walked over to the James Bond stage, and saw the set the first time, and it was like, it's just bonkers, because there's like, in that ballroom scene, there is no green screen like at all. They literally built the ballroom. It's like, it was bonkers. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. Big? It was huge. It was absolutely huge. I will always remember that, walking on that set and going, what? Thinking that there'd be like a couple of pillars and maybe a step or something, and then the rest would just be a green screen for them to add it all in later. No, they just built it. Crazy. Oh, wow. That is a very good question, and one I've never been asked before. It's kind of a usual answer for a performer, but there is still a part of me that would love to be a part in a TV series, like a sitcom or something. Like I always watch like your Modern Families and your Will and Graces and all the Russell T Davies stuff, like It's a Sin and Years and Years and all those. I just watch them, and then for like a little while after, I daydream about being in that scenario and being on a set and filming a TV series. I actually really love acting. Like when I was playing Gollum, that was like the most acting, like the most like what I consider like proper acting that I've ever done, since, before or since. And I absolutely loved it. So maybe an acting role.
What about a little bit of Will Shaky?
Oh, I always say, I've got a really funny story. So Michael Grandage, who's like big cheese director, Mr. Man, when we won Guys and Dolls, there was a big party one night or at some point, and we had to get in a cab to travel to the party. And I think we'd already been drinking, because I'm pretty sure I was drunk. And we were in the cab, and I said to Michael Grandage, I'm going to play Puck for you one day. And he was like, oh, are you now? And I was like, yes. That's not happened yet, but I'd love to play Puck. I'd love to.
Darren, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been massively insightful, and you are a force to be reckoned with, sir.
It's been amazing. And like a couple of times there, like I had like realizations about my career and memories pop up that I'd even forgotten. So it was just as lovely for me. Thank you.
Oh, well, I hope it's been a nice trip down memory lane.
It really has.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, take care.